You just ate that whole bag?
Oh yeah, that's pretty good, man.
Oh my gosh. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Live Your Mission show, brought to you by Mission Meets, where our guests share their most actionable advice so that you can live a more mission-centered life. I am your host, Peter Alwood, and today we're joined by my good friend, Joe Stolte. And this is not your typical Live Your Mission episode, if we can say we're typical with this little bit of episodes we've got so far. But I'll tell you why. We were supposed to record this thing in person, which we haven't done a whole lot of those yet, and in a studio. And then we got sidetracked because Joe's car was going dead. He had to go charge it, and so once we realized we weren't going to make our timeline, we decided to record this thing in the car. So pulled out my Mevo Cam, which I haven't had really any experience with, and we attempted to record everything in the car using his lapel mic to his phone and my wired mic to my H4n. Anyways, it made for a convoluted mess of audio and video files, and so I'll tell you that my buddy Brandon Crocker, who does all the post-production, he had his work cut out for him, but he did an amazing job given the junk of files we gave him. Now, with all that being said, Joe really brought the noise. Here's a guy who knows how to hustle. He knows how to think of things unemotionally. He knows how to pay attention to what's working and compress the learning timeline of something that you think may take you years. He can compress it down to a month or even a few weeks because he knows the questions to ask. He thinks about things far differently than the average Joe. Haha. And so you guys are really going to like this episode, and I guarantee you we will be bringing him back for round two. Here's someone who has had such a varied past as far as career and expertise, and so he's really got the perspective that you guys are going to appreciate. What's even more interesting to me is that he's consulting with entrepreneurs who want to level up, but also staying in the game, as he says, by working in companies, and so that he could stay up to speed. And I think it's quite different than most consultants and most people that are giving advice. Is a lot of times, and this has been my problem with folks of this career path, is that sometimes they haven't even lived it ever. And even if they have, it's been such a long time ago that their advice isn't relevant. And so this is not the case with Joe. We had a lot of fun. We talked about a wide-ranging variety of things. And this dude also, he just crushed the Reaper. Like nobody I've ever seen in my life. And so you guys are going to enjoy that as well. So without any further ado, I bring to you our what are we gonna call this thing? I'm gonna call it carpool live your mission, maybe. I'm not sure. We'll have to call it something. But live your mission in the car, version 1.0. I bring to you that episode, and I hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching. Wait. Where was my head? I forgot to give you the update from Mission Meets headquarters that I normally do. And this will be a quick one. We are having so much fun, and I specifically am having so much fun texting with customers and prospective customers about some updates that are going on with Mission Meets, specials that we're running, and we run some heavy, awesome, really, really fun specials, especially when we're launching new taste or flavors and SKUs and product lines and stuff like that. We've got quite a few really exciting things coming down the pipe, and I don't want you to miss it. And so if you want to be updated, all you do is text MEAT, MEAT, to 69551. MEAT to 69551. That'll get you on the notification list. And I typically am the one sending those notifications out. And so I'll be sending that stuff out, and you can text back and forth with us if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, any of that stuff. And we will communicate with you directly, which is really, really fun for us and hopefully fun for you guys. And so text MEAT 69551. Now back to the show. All right, Joe, welcome to the show.
So stoked to be here. It's been a long time coming, and despite some technical challenge, we're making it happen.
We're making it happen, right? So this wasn't supposed to be carpool, live your mission, right? But we're going to do it, right? So, dude, I'm stoked to have you on. I think the world of you, man. And I think that, the guest or the listener is going to be most excited about you being a guest because of the mindset and the way that you think and the stuff that you've learned along the way. One of the things I always appreciate when we're chatting is that you've got always have an interesting twist or a way to think about things that could be perceived as negative or could be perceived as a huge hurdle, and you're able to distill it down into something that seems actionable and accomplishable, if that's a word, like something that you can accomplish. And so let's start out like we always do on the show. What is your mission? Like if somebody asks you what your mission is and what you're working on, are they the same thing? And our camera just went down the dash.
Yes. First hurdle of podcasting the Tesla. Now we're getting an incredibly great view of the cloudy sky here in Southern California.
And I can't even reach it. Oh, it's come to me. It came to me.
Ask and you shall receive, man. Your mind goes, give me that camera.
Give me that camera, man. All right, what's your mission, bro?
My mission, from the broadest possible perspective, is to help entrepreneurs and business owners wake up to their purpose and then live and express that purpose as much as humanly possible. And there's a lot of people that say that, and I think those words mean a lot of different things to different people, and it takes a lot of different shapes. So to put some context around what I just said, the way that I express my own purpose to help other people find their purpose is I often find myself working with experienced entrepreneurs that have got, $1 million in top line revenue or close, which implies they've had some progress, but they are the chief everything officer, right? They're doing the job of 5 or 6 different people when they really should just be focusing on leading and letting systems and structures and other people step up to the bat. So that they can have time to think strategically about their business, but more importantly, they can have time to think through how they want to express their own purpose, both in their lives and as an expression of how that business shows up in the world. So if you think about how busy we get as entrepreneurs, even, quote unquote social good entrepreneurs, we have this tendency to sort of let the veneer of what we're trying to do in the world just kind of sit there. And we don't actually get to go and engage in that and express inside of that and really live into it. And when you live into things, we were having this discussion earlier, but when you're in something and you experience it, the color and the vibrancy and the details just get so much greater, and your vision of what's possible expands. So if you're spending more time putting out fires doing the job of, 5 or 6 different people, you're not spending time inside your purpose, which means you're not deepening it and you're not serving as many people as you possibly could. That's a long-winded answer, but that's how I help entrepreneurs express, find, identify, and live inside their own purpose.
Okay. That's dope, man. Let's break down what you said. I mean, living out your purpose is something that seems cliche, seems like a soundbite. You hear about it all the time. It also happens to be like my focus for 2020, which is to continue to be on the path to purpose and being very deliberate about it. This is one thing to say it. It's a totally another thing to do it, right? And I think that it's one of those things where it has to be first and foremost, it has to be a priority. You have to know kind of where you want to go, and then you have to have very deliberate steps in order to get there, because otherwise you're going to be in, what the book 4 Disciplines of Execution calls the whirlwind. You're going to live in that whirlwind, which is the trenches, which is just being a firefighter, putting out fires constantly, and your purpose is going to play a back seat. It's kind of like the entrepreneurs, like a gentleman I talked to recently, where he realized that for the last 5 years or so years of his organization, he paid himself last.
Right.
Because he always thought, dude, in the end, once we start making XYZ money, then I'll be able to pay myself more. And then that day never came.
Sure.
And they were making more money, but they just never figured out how to do it until they were one day the light bulb came on, and they thought, we got to pay ourselves first. We got to figure out how to do with a little bit less so that we can actually pay ourselves a living wage so that we can be around in 5 more years. And so I think living on your path, being on your path to purpose is the very same thing. It's like this needs to be a priority. It needs to be the priority, at least to be on that path. And otherwise, because otherwise you're never going to get there. You're never going to have enough time to focus on it. And so, well, I mean, what does that look like for someone that you're working with, or somebody that you run into that tells you kind of how their life is going? What are some of the factors that you think are playing into the fact that they're not focused on what their God-given ability really is?
Yeah, so many ways to answer that question. When I can have a 5-minute conversation with a founder or CEO and know very, very, very quickly if they are living inside of their purpose and they are expressing that, or if they're living in a place of the whirlwind and not in the wildly important, right? The wildly important goals, both for their organizations and for themselves.
You've read the book.
10 years ago, built 4 businesses using the tools.
It's so good.
Yeah. One of my favorites. So, but not the way I'll answer the question at the end. Anyway, so I can have a conversation relatively quickly with an entrepreneur or a business owner and know, hey, is this person in a place where they're living and expressing their own purpose? Are they living in the whirlwind? Are they living in the day-to-day, putting out fires, doing the jobs of 50 different people? Because when you're inside of this place of doing the jobs of 50 different people, the amount of time that you're spending inside of your organization is wildly disproportionate, right? So for example, and it has this cascading effect. So if I ask them, for example, hey, and they're married, how's your relationship with your wife? How much time are you spending with your kids? What's your plan and reality looking like inside your physical body? I know immediately what they're doing at work because we've all done it, right? We've all missed the target, and so in our brains we go, hey, we have to work harder, stay at the office harder, do more. I need to do more. As the founder, owner, leader, I need to go in there and do more. So you go do more, you stay late, and that does what? Takes time away from your family. Takes time away from your ability to be a partner, a husband, a wife, a parent. It takes time away from your ability to do your morning routine where you're fueling your body or going to the gym and taking care of yourself. And as those patterns start to erode within your life, the whole thing sort of cascades and it spirals in this negative place. It comes from this great intention, which is like, I want to go and dive in and do more and work harder. And what's interesting is our society rewards the hustle so cold. Gary Vee is like, you got to eat in order to win and just go work hard. Yeah. And there's some kernel of truth in that. That's why it resonates with people. But what I found is most success is not obvious and counterintuitive. So when you found a little bit of success and you have a business that's producing, grinding and hustling, that is actually bad advice in a lot of cases. Because if you go out and grind and hustle to the detriment of the foundation of everything else in your life, you are eroding what made you successful in the first place, right? And so we have this addiction to hustle. It's cool, you're rewarded for it, you get patted on the back for it. But when you hustle to build your business, unless your business is expressly changing lives in the marketplace, like a one-to-one direct causation correlation, you're removing yourself from your purpose. And, just like the 4 disciplines of execution talks about, Jim Collins talks about it, and any entrepreneur that's experienced it knows it intuitively, is the more time you spend at the lowest altitudes in your business. I'm not saying you shouldn't go there. It's mandatory that you spend time there to understand what's going on. Yeah. But if you live there, you can't have the perspective that allows you to think carefully about your business. And so most people want to go out and hustle and grind, and they get patted on the back for it because they did a good job. But that's actually the lowest level of leadership. A higher level of leadership is to let go. It's a higher level of leadership for you as the individual. And what's happening is you're not going in and robbing someone from the opportunity of learning how to be a better leader, which might be their purpose. So it's meta here. You see how I'm not just not expressing my purpose, I'm robbing you of your purpose because you're my staff member, my team member, my employee. If you need to grow into that opportunity and I keep robbing you of that because I keep doing it because I don't trust you, do you see how there's layers to this stuff? Yeah. And so my whole point is you can tell very quickly from a conversation with somebody where they're at inside this game. And I believe that we all have a unique purpose. I believe that we're all called to do something incredible. We all have a very unique set of experiences, good, bad, or otherwise, that have crafted us, molded us to become who we are right now, and that it is actually our responsibility to go figure out what is my purpose and how do I express that in a meaningful way? How do I spend most of my time as a human expressing that, right? The business, the job, the family, all of that is a means to an end to empower my expression of my own purpose, my calling.
Couple things there, man. And I totally agree. But it's like, and I'm going to pose some questions that people are thinking about right now.
Do it.
But I can't afford it.
Yeah.
I can't afford to hire somebody to like free me up to do what I need to be doing or to be on the path of my purpose. What do you say?
It's funny. Gandhi has this really interesting quote. He said, "Man, I got so much to do today. I got to meditate for 2 hours instead of 1." You know, and this idea that I don't have money or I don't have resources is actually just a limiting belief. I mean, you may physically not have capital, so you can't go hire somebody. I get that, right? But that does not mean that you can't explore your own systems, efficiency, and prioritization in your own life. Because if you haven't done that at step one, how are you going to lead someone else to do that? You're going to bring your habit patterns into the business as a human. Like if you haven't systematized the parts of your life that need to be systematized, the lower value activities that don't bring you tons of joy, if you haven't compartmentalized and sort of taken account of how, the own process of your life, that doesn't cost you anything but your time.
Yeah.
To sit back and listen, we have this amazing resource called Google and the internet. Right? I'm going to date myself here, but I'm an 80s baby. There's like a good chunk of my life where I rode my BMX bike. I didn't have access
Me too, man.
to the internet.
Me too.
Right? And so inside of that, there's tons of free resources on how to organize yourself. And what's interesting is like most people have access to that information, but it's not organized into a process that's palatable for them. So that's another big part of my work. When I sit down with the founder, I say, okay, listen, let's start with your own personal life. And let's craft an experience inside of your life that has the right systems and process to support where you want to put your energy and where you don't. Because just to go back to the 4 disciplines of execution, and if the authors, I think it's the Covey organization, ever watch this, please pay us. Because we're promoting your book so hard. No, I'm kidding. But it's this idea of the whirlwind, this book, and if you guys haven't picked it up,
book's so good.
It's an easy read.
Yeah, it's actually thanks to Brandon Turner, man. The dude told me about it when we were down visiting him, and he's like, you got to read this book. He had just read it, I think.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Brandon, if you're listening to this, like we got to meet. You and Josh changed my life. You have no idea. Suffice to say, listen, the whirlwind is real. And it's not just the whirlwind of work, it's the whirlwind of kids and social media and media in general and what you consume for media that changes the way you think. I mean, there's layers to this stuff. So it's not just work, it's the whirlwind of your life. That if you don't have a plan and a process and a way to cut through that and stick to what's wildly important and make sure it's aligned to your purpose, screwed.
Yeah, and the thing is, so, and to break it down even further, man, I think that, for the person that can't hire someone, then you don't need to go there and be like, oh, well, I'm going to be living the whirlwind because I can't, I can't hire anybody, I can't delegate, right? But like what you're saying, and if I'm reading between it a little bit too, it's like, yeah, but you're probably a lot less organized than you need to be. And you're probably saying yes to a lot of things you shouldn't be saying yes to. There's a lot more efficiency that can come out of your life so that can make room for your purpose, your health, your spiritual health, your relationship with your spouse, your kids, all those things. There's still room for those people, even if you're a solopreneur. Right?
Absolutely.
And I meet people all the time where they're like, you find out like they're organizing their tasks and their projects on like paper or Excel or something antiquated, right?
Right.
I always point them to Asana because I'm an Asana fanboy. But it's like, dude, there are much more efficient ways for you to communicate. I guarantee you can squeeze an extra hour out of your day easily just from all the inefficiencies and stuff and the way you're handling your day.
Yeah.
Stuff you're saying yes to, calls you're taking. I don't know how many times I'm on a phone call with somebody like, hey, hold on, somebody's calling. And I'm like, do you recognize the person? Do you even recognize the number?
Sure.
You don't, but you're gonna hang up. You're gonna put me on hold to answer a call that's probably a solicitor or like spam.
Yeah.
If I don't know the number, I don't even answer. Right.
Yeah.
Now we don't always all have that like ability. Maybe you get a lot of calls from people you don't know. Maybe a realtor. I don't know. But a lot of times it's like, dude, stop taking those calls. Let it go to voicemail.
Yeah.
Like very simple things.
And what that does is it frees up your time.
Yep.
And there's lots of ways to, one of the biggest lies that we tell ourselves, limiting beliefs, false stories, is there's not enough time. Mm-hmm. Oh, there's not enough time in the day. It's like, hey man, did you catch the end of the final season of Game of Thrones? What a terrible ending. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, dude, how do you have time to watch all those episodes of Game of Thrones, but you don't have time to do what matters? and that is an output, right? Think about process, like input, process, output. That's an output of things that happen way far upstream. Mm-hmm. And so just very tactically, yes, there are a lot of ways to get more efficiency, get more time in your world. It really comes down to how do you use that time, and will you take the appropriate action when it comes time, right? And so a big part of my job is just inviting people to specificity, right? And so, like, for example, I don't know how deep you want to get.
Just do it.
Let's do it. So what's your revenue goal for the year in your business?
I don't want to share that.
Okay, that's fine. So I'll ask people that, and a lot of times they don't have an answer. They don't have an immediate answer. Okay. What? Yeah. You know, and then it's like, okay.
Well, no, they have an answer. It's like more.
Yeah.
Right? Some fluffy thing. My mentor always calls it attribute data.
Sure.
He's like, he'll ask you, how did your day? My day was great. We had lots of calls, and I was really busy. He's like, yeah, I heard a lot of attributes there.
Yeah.
Like, give me some numbers.
That's right.
Like more, better, faster. Like those don't mean anything.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's so. Okay, let's use a simple example. Okay, it's new. It's the beginning of the year. We'll date the episode, even though this is timeless material. And let's say you want to lose weight. I want to lose some weight. It's my New Year's resolution to lose some weight. Cool. How much weight do you want to lose? Right? If we can get you to a place where it's like, I want to lose 20 pounds of belly fat, and I want to do it by March 1st, and I'm going to do that by X, Y, and Z. Okay, now we're in a space where inside of that specificity, we can act on that.
That's right.
This is just basic goal setting stuff. We all forget to do this all the time. It's cool. So it's like, what's your plan for your kids? How are you going to show up and make magic moments for your kids? Like, what does that even mean? What is a magic moment? And have you thought about that? And like, what's the process for that? Because everything comes down to a process. Peter Drucker said famously, if you can't describe what you're doing in a process, you don't know what you're doing. And I get it, there's a lot of artists that do things naturally and they grow this thing intuitively, but at some point it was a process for them. So we can break everything down. And for people that are more creative and big vision inclined, and they hear the word process and break it down, and they kind of throw up in their mouth, like, no, I want to be, that's fine. That's me, actually. So this going back to process is a discipline that I've had to learn because I know that it's necessary to get myself to the next level. So if you don't have money, that's cool because you have to earn the right to spend your money to upgrade your situation. There's so much you can do inside that foundation around getting clear on exactly what you want, like super extra clear, higher levels of clarity. And then number two, making sure that that's actually what you really want. That's a big one.
How do you do that?
So I think there's lots of tools for it, but to describe the problem, I think a lot of us have been like indoctrinated. It's bad to have desires. Like it's bad to want what you want, right? Like
you mean like to want things or to want to like improve your station?
Yeah, there's kind of this like Judeo-Christian sort of culture that permeates at least North America. That like this hedonistic idea of leaning into what you want for the sake of leaning into what you want, optimizing for that is bad. And I think that leaves a residue inside people's heads that blocks them from really saying what I want, right? So like when I wanted to make $1 million, at first I thought it would just be cool to say that I was a millionaire. Like I thought it would, like when I analyzed it, it'd be like, oh, that's cool. I can tell people that, right? They're gonna think more highly of me. And then I heard Jim Rohn say, everybody should make the goal of becoming a millionaire, not because of the money, but for who it will make you to become a millionaire. And when I heard that, I was like, it just changed everything for me, right? And so like, this whole idea of like chasing the money was really hard for me, but this idea of chasing of who I'm going to become, that became so much more sustainable for me. Yeah. If that makes any sense. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not the $1 million, it's what the $1 million allows you to do.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And whether that's, on a giving side of things or, on hiring or whatever, allowing other people to live into their purpose, right? And so, I mean, what are some of the things that you have gone through? Maybe tell a little bit paint a little bit of the picture, tell a little bit of the backstory of like, was this always your thinking? Is this the way you always thought? Is there something that you went through that allowed you to then say, dude, I can't continue to operate this way? Like paint that picture a little bit.
Oh man, yeah. Definitely. I mean, look, I don't profess or teach or coach or advise anyone on anything that I haven't already done in my life, right? Like I can talk intimately about the 4 disciplines of execution because I've got reps and intensity around trying that. And even inside of that book, like I know what doesn't actually work for me and what really does work. So yeah, so many stories. Just to ground contextually, so like I'll just give a quick story around why purpose and like giving back is even important to me. And then maybe I can get into some of this many failures that I've had and what I've learned from that. So super briefly, I was raised in a farm town of less than 1,000 people, 30 miles outside of Portland, Oregon, and there wasn't a whole lot to do there. But at the time, this is pre-internet, through osmosis, like hip hop was making its way into every suburb in America, you know, and being from the West Coast, I got exposed to a lot of West Coast hip hop. And at the time I was, I think 9 or 10 years old. It was the early 90s. And what was really cool at the time, like have to have it, was the Raiders jacket and the Jordans, right? And so I had to have the starter Raiders jacket. If it wasn't starter, it didn't matter.
Of course.
And I had to have the Jordans, the Jordan 4s very specifically, right? Okay. And so, or maybe it was the 3s, I forget. So I had to have these Jordans, I had to have these Raiders jackets, but I'm young and I don't have any, I can't go get a job. And my parents were like, yeah, right, how much is that jacket?
Yeah,
how much are those shoes?
A lot.
But what I had is this insane burning desire, like insane, like it made me sad that I couldn't have it, but it didn't put me down. And so I had this desire and I wanted to channel this somehow. And my dad was in the military, traveled a lot. He came home on leave. I think he was in Korea, he came home on leave. And he's like, hey, here's how you mow the lawn. I need you to learn how to mow the lawn because otherwise your mom's gonna have to do it, and you're the man of the house. Go figure it out. Mm-hmm. And so I mowed the lawn, and I hated it. Hate's a strong word, but I'm pretty sure it was close to hate. I was like, this is terrible. Like, I don't want to mow the lawn. But then it occurred to me one day after he taught me how to mow the lawn that I was like, oh, everybody needs their lawn mowed. And probably other people hate mowing their lawn too. So I did what every young kid probably did in a small farm town, and I went around and knocked on all my neighbors' doors. I was like, hey, I will get your lawn mowed for $10. You know, we can do that every week. Do you want to do that? Mm-hmm. And I got like 7 or 8 neighbors to say yes.
I did exactly the same thing, by the way.
I took it a step further because I lived in a farm town full of migrant workers. Yeah. I went and asked all my friends, hey, can I borrow your lawnmowers? I got 4 lawnmowers. And then I went up and asked the migrant workers, hey, you guys want to mow some lawns for $5? Because I was lazy. I was like relatively smart, burning desire, but lazy. And they went out and mowed the lawns for weeks.
Oh
and I got way more money than I needed for my jacket and shoes. Got the jacket and shoes. At the time, I was a pretty much a troublemaking kid of the worst variety. And my dad's off in the military doing military stuff. My mom's working 2 jobs, and she's like, I don't know what to do with this kid. So she stuffed me in this Baptist church 2 blocks from my house. And every time they would pass the tithe plate around, I was like, oh, I'm too young to tithe, and I don't have any money. I'm not supposed to tithe. But I always wanted to tithe. I've been going to church for like a year. And so I took all the rest of the money that I made from this hustle. I mean, I turned it off. I got my shoes and my jacket. I didn't know anything about scale at the time. And so I turned off. Or
saving.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like 10. Like the frontal lobe hadn't fully formed these ideas yet.
I remember my dad saying, why don't you save your money? I go, save it for what? I'll never forget. I'm like, save for what? I don't need to save money. For what?
Yeah, I got my shoes and my jacket. You feed me. I'm cool now. What else do I need? So they passed the tithe plate around, and I just had the money in my pocket. You know, it was like a couple $100, which is a big deal for me.
It's a lot of money.
Early 90s. Yeah. I don't know what that is with inflation, but it was a lot for me. I literally just took all the money, I threw it in the tithe plate. And what happened at that moment is the feeling I got from the shoes and the jacket was huge. When I tithed, when I gave beyond what I was comfortable giving, and I stretched myself, boom, I had this awakening at a young age that was like, ooh, that feels so good. Like it not feels good like I got a massage good, but it put a warm blanket and hugged my heart, my soul. And as a young kid, I didn't fully comprehend what was happening, but I knew it felt good. And so that was the kernel for me that was like, okay, I need to do things like this because I love this feeling. But I also had this burning desire to get stuff, money and all this other stuff. And so these 2 guiding forces in my life have always shaped who I am, which is I have this burning desire to make money and get stuff. Then I have this burning desire to serve, right? Beyond what I think I'm comfortable doing. And so it's those 2 things that have really shaped my destiny inside of trying to be an entrepreneur. That's
huge, man. That's huge. But what do you think it was inherent in you that maybe is not in other folks, and that, you know, I'm wondering like which is teachable and which is not, which is kind of like this existential question, but allowed you to see like, hey, I want these shoes, I want this jacket. And instead of feeling like this oppressiveness or feeling of like a lack, you instead went after it. Like, what is it? And then is that teachable?
Yeah. This goes back to, I think a lot of people have suppressed their desires.
Okay.
It's bad to want what you want. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that at that age. And that lesson was powerful. I can want what I want. And even if there's no one there to get it for me, I can go figure it out on my own.
Yeah.
But that gave me this little tiny bit of confidence of what was possible. What's cool is that like, if you learn how to want what you want, right? Like, you can lean into that, and you don't have to have that little kernel of possibility in your own life. You can borrow it from somebody else. There's this saying in neurolinguistic programming, which is like possible in the world, possible for me. If you can find one other person that's done it, that's like you, that you have affinity towards, You can borrow their certainty and their experience to inherit that possibility for yourself.
Yeah.
We do it all the time. We get inspired by people all the time, but you can do it consciously if you feel like you're in a place where you're stuck. So I think the teachable moment is like, hey, you want to start a business? Why do you want to start a business? Let's get clear on the reasons why, right? Because those dominant reasons why are what are going to pull you through when it gets tough, but it's also what's going to generate the necessary energy inside of yourself to spool all that up to get going, to get past the like, oh, my logo has got to be perfect, and should I get an LLC, or should I have a business partner? Should I find a technical? Forget all that. Like, why do you want to start this business? Lean into that. Like, put logs on that fire and make it a bonfire, because that's going to blaze through all these things that don't matter. This back office stuff that isn't serving customers. Like, that's what's going to get you through it. So I think the teachable moment is go inside and listen to your intuition, find out why. Why do you want to start this business? Beyond the money. There's always something beyond the money. So invite your own self, to the next level of specificity at a deeper level, and that's where you find all this power to get yourself through the tough stuff.
And you need it to get through the tough stuff. It's like, if it's just about the money or it's just about it being exciting, as soon as you hit that first roadblock, you're going to be done.
Yeah.
Game over. Forget it. You're not going to make it.
That's right.
Right? Like, it's not going to carry you through. Right? But if it's about purpose, right, or it's about something much, much deeper, then when it gets hard, it's okay. Because it's not about those things, right? It's going to, the purpose and all these other deeper feelings, like, those are going to carry you through. The deeper reasons are going to carry you through. But the one thing you talked about that I don't want to glaze over is, like, borrowing somebody else's, what was the word you said?
Desire,
possibility.
Yeah.
It's so immensely powerful. Because if you surround yourself with people who are doing much bigger things than you, it makes your problems look so much smaller, and not in a bad way, in a great way. You're like, oh, this person's dealing with X, Y, and Z. Like, what I'm dealing with is not a big deal. Not only can they help me get through it, but my stuff's just not. It's not that big a hurdle. I can get over it, right? I've told this story before, but it's like a friend of mine, Mike, which I will have in the show. He meets me like a week after we move here, right? And I knew he had some nice cars. But, dude, and by the way, he meets me at a coffee shop that I walked to because I don't have a car, right? So I walk there. I have a car. Melissa drives a car. But we have one car. Anyways, so I walk there, and he's like, oh, you walked here? Let's go grab lunch. Just hop in with me. And I turn the corner, and he is in a McLaren.
No big deal.
I don't even know how to open the door on the McLaren. Like, I've never been in a McLaren. It smells like resin, right? This car's all carbon fiber. But here's the thing. It's not about having a super expensive car, but it was like demystifying that level of vehicle or success or whatever it is that it's an example of to you. You look at it and you're like, oh, this is just some dude that I know, could be a gal that you know, that have attained a level of success that you think is unachievable. It demystifies it. Like, you see it and you're like, oh, well, I knew them before and now I know them after, or I know what they took to get there, and they're just a human being. Like, they had to put their pants on this morning just like everybody else. It's totally achievable, right? And I think, like, that is so incredibly powerful, and most of us are, like, working in a silo. We're trying to solve all these problems in our own heads. We're Googling or we're YouTubing or whatever, and we're consuming things digitally, which is okay, but it's completely different to know that person, to be with them, to have them be surrounding you physically, right? To meet with them on a regular basis, because now you're like, oh, here's an actual living, breathing, eating human being that has done what I think I can't do, and now it feels more achievable. So it's the same thing. I've never thought of it as borrowing, right? But it's like borrowing somebody's success, or borrowing their aggressiveness, or borrowing their hustle, and just feeling like, oh yeah, I can glean some of that. I can actually apply it to my life slowly, and then before I know it, I'm where they are, or I'm at least where I want to be.
Yeah. Yes to all that. There's so many angles to take that. We were talking about, before we started recording, going out and looking at more expensive houses.
Yeah. Yep.
And how you can sit on Zillow or Redfin and look at houses all day, and because they're dressed up to look fancy, and you see the price tags and language surrounded them, and you probably have this vision in your head, especially if you weren't raised with money in a large house, that these things are very unobtainable, right? But the moment you go do a walkthrough of this home, whether you can afford it in this very moment or not, it becomes real for you. Yeah. You're confronted with the reality and the simplicity that we're all just humans, and this is totally possible for me because it's possible for everyone else in the room that's looking around, and they don't look special. He doesn't look like Elon Musk or some incredibly successful CEO. Yeah. He's just a guy. He might work at Google or whatever, right? you're confronted by the reality of how simple it is, that it shatters this narrative you've been quietly telling yourself in the back of your head that it's not possible for me. Mm-hmm. And what happens is you start to go through this process where you go for it's not possible to me, to maybe it's possible, to then you start hoping that it happens for you. And then as you start taking action, we talked about this earlier, you upgrade your hope to expectation. I expect it to happen. I expect that I'm going to be in this house because I've made this kind of money and I'm making this kind of progress. And if I just look at my trajectory, it's naturally obvious to me that I'm going to end up in this house, which is a far cry from, the mental masturbation of looking at and dreaming about stuff over and over and over. In fact, science has shown that if you over visualize things without taking action, it actually creates disappointment and lessens your chances of having it. There's a happy medium in all of this. There's something else that you said that I want to drill into, which is the power of association, right? Everybody's heard the phrase, you are your 5 closest friends, your 5 closest humans. And if you haven't, it's this idea that you effectively are the average of the people you spend the most time with. Yeah. So you are the average, body fat percentage, or the average net worth. You drive the same type of average car of the people you hang out with, or in your case, you don't drive. So clearly something's afoot. And so I think this idea of association, it cuts both ways. Yeah. Right? When I was young, I used to hang out with bad people. People are getting in a lot of trouble. My mom was like, it doesn't matter if you're not doing what they're doing. It's guilt by association. It's also habit inheritance through osmosis. And so if you're in a place where you want to borrow some certainty, you want to borrow some capability from somebody, you want to borrow some courage, I think one of the most powerful things you can do and this costs you no money, is go find the person that's the next level above you and figure out how to serve them. And figure out who they're hanging out with.
Oh my gosh.
And then go do. If you did nothing, this is what I said. Most success is not obvious and counterintuitive. It's obvious to think about me and do stuff for me and be selfish and just work on me. But if I step back and go, that person's farther than I am in an area that I want to be in, how do I serve them so that I can earn the right to be in their circle? Then they'll want me in their circle. Then I'll find the people above them and I'll keep serving them. And as it pulls me up this circle, what's possible for me in my mind suddenly gets a whole lot bigger. Right, so I transitioned from being a professional street dancer to working in management consulting, and the only reason that happened is because I was washing cars at Hertz Rent-A-Car. That was like a summer job to pay to get to my next place on tour, and I met a guy that worked in management consulting at a prestigious management consulting firm, and we hit it off and we had an amazing conversation, and he saw something in me and decided to continue a relationship with me. And I learned that in management consulting, when you graduate college, if you play your cards right, you can start with a 6-figure salary, right? That's not the common. That's not like you can go work at a McKinsey, you won't start at 6 figures. But I figured out there are firms that do that. And I wasn't even going to college at the time. I just was like, wait, I just need to go hustle my way through college, get an interview, and then get a job. And to me, that was a business. It was like I treated it like a hustle, like a business. And so I spent a few years in management consulting, and that's where I started my career. But this person ended up pouring into me and really helping upgrade my mentality of what I thought was possible. But the biggest single thing that changed my mentality about the whole situation was the fact that he was making the money that he was making. And he related to me on such a level. We had similar backgrounds. He was just a few years older than me. Yeah. And so that, I was like, oh my gosh, yes. Now I can go to college and I had a purpose, and this whole thing became clear to me. And that's how I started my career in business, was like some dude who's a dear, dear friend to me, who runs strategy at a major advisory firm still to this day. His company got acquired, came into my life and showed me what was possible. You are literally one relationship away, one encounter away, one meeting away of finding the person that can change what's possible in your life forever, simply by association. And so if you can consciously go create those moments in your life, and tactically, here's how you would do it. We'll get right down to it. Yeah. What do you want to do? Get clarity on what you want to do. Okay, you want to work in real estate? You want to be an entrepreneur? Who are the entrepreneurs in your town or your city or your space that already have customers, that have money, that have figured something out? Go figure out how you can help them. So that's it. Don't ask for money. Just go figure out how you can help them and get around them, and then ask them who else like them should you be meeting. Yeah. Just follow that script. Use LinkedIn to meet them. Write a 30-second, tweetable paragraph because they don't have time, and just keep trying until someone, sheds mercy on you and takes you under their wing. Yeah. It might take you 2 weeks. Change your whole life.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is too, it's like, where there are events that are happening, just be there.
That's right.
So the story that I told, on Slow Hustle previous show, that is one of my favorite things, that it wasn't necessarily, it was stemmed from a necessity for me to like be around people, and just because I'm an extrovert. But we lived in a small town, 8,000 people, right? So small town, just like you grew up in, is where we were living. And I just felt stifled. Like I wasn't getting like the interaction I needed in business to just like answer questions, solve problems, have people help me solve problems. And so I did what I called getting some windshield time. Like I'm living in Iowa. It's a state of 4 million people spread out across a large geographic region, right? So it's not densely populated by any means. And I just went to every stinking event I could go to. I went to so many events where people thought that I lived in that town. People that I knew that I had had like lunches with several times, they would learn. It was hilarious. They would learn that I didn't live there. They'd say, "Wait, you live where? I thought you lived here. You live 2 hours away? You come here all the time for like these 45 minutes of events?" I said, "Yeah."
Yeah.
They'd say, "Why?" Because I need to be around these people that are doing big things.
Yeah.
Right? Now this wasn't like some master plan. I just needed to have some interaction with other human beings that were doing things that were exciting to me. But I realized that it was one of the most valuable things I ever did, because it allowed me to get around people doing big things, and all the stuff we just talked about. These are friendships I still have to this day, right? Because I just spent the time. I got in the car and I went to these events and I was around these people. So LinkedIn is great if that's all you've got, but if you can, get in front of people in person.
And you can.
You can.
It's just a matter of your own resourcefulness.
Right.
You can.
You don't have a car, get on the bus, man.
Right. Speaking of possible in the world, possible for you, it's totally possible for you to go find an event, to go figure it out. Like ride the bus.
Do whatever.
There's this thing called the Greyhound bus. For like $59, you can go from your city, anywhere in America, to any other city in America. It's phenomenal.
Right. It's not the most ideal way to get there, but you can get there, right?
Yeah, and you can read a lot of books and watch a lot of YouTube videos on the way.
That's right. That's right. It's not an either or. It's both and, right?
That's right.
As my pastor says, it's like you can do them both, right?
That's right.
Do one on the way to the other, but get around these people.
Yeah.
Like you talk about like this one interaction away from like changing your life. Yeah, it is only one, but you might have to get through 50 to find that one. And so you need to increase your odds. You got to get around people, man.
Listen, the better it gets, the better it can get. You never stop at one.
I like that.
The better it gets, the better it can get. You got to drill that into your head. That's got to become part of your heartbeat if you want to be an entrepreneur. And forget entrepreneur. If you just want to be successful and pursue your purpose in life, like that's the whole point. Is the more you explore your purpose, the better it gets, the more vibrant it gets. The more ideas you get, the better you can serve.
Yeah. It's
the same idea as going to the event. You just start to get the osmosis. It's the same thing. Like you find other people that are attached to their purpose, and it's similar to yours, and you vibe, and it begets more.
Yeah.
Fun story. So I worked in management consulting for a little bit, ended up at Microsoft as like an internal consultant, and my job was to go around to different Microsoft subsidiaries and kind of help the CEO of Microsoft Mexico or Brazil or Microsoft China grow their business. That was awesome for a few years, but there's something itching inside of me where I knew that I needed to go start a business. What was crazy is I waited like 9 months or a year before I acted on that. Like I suffered with that. I didn't leave my job and go act on that because I was scared to lose my big corporate salary, my status. I was worried that, I wanted to get married to my wife. Like, what would that mean for my relationship? And then, I must have been 2011 or 10. A good friend of mine, I think you know him too, Sam Salisbury, introduced me to the Summit Series. And I started meeting these people who are now the vast majority of my friends. And it was just like the level that they were dreaming and thinking about and acting against and moving towards was like several orders of magnitude higher than what I was doing. And I already knew that I needed to get around these people. I knew that I needed to think bigger. Like I intuitively knew some of the stuff we've been talking about. And so here I am kind of at the apex of my career at Microsoft, more money than I know what to do with at the time because I'm just making the good corporate money every 2 weeks. It shows up, right? And but I knew I had to leave. But it was never a good time to leave though. So what ended up happening is I got married. My father passed away from cancer, and I moved to Venice Beach, California, and went from making, lots of money to $30,000 a year as an entrepreneur. Ugh. So that wasn't convenient, but I did it because I knew I needed to get around more people that were playing this game. They were playing the game of business. They were playing the game of, purpose-driven entrepreneurship, right? They were playing the game of taking other people's capital and wanting to go expand that capital through business, but also make the world a better place. And I wasn't going to be able to do that in Seattle working at Microsoft. It might take me 30 years to do what I could do in 3 months in Venice. right? And so this idea of compressing decades to days or weeks or whatever was really apparent to me. And my leverage point was by jumping, taking that leap of faith and going out and meeting and surrounding myself with these people. So I didn't have to travel. I just moved. And I moved with my wife. We got married, and about 3 or 4 months later, we moved into a house with like 6 other dudes, 1 girl, 2 bathrooms, and 1 shower. It was a cool place overlooking Abbot Kinney in Venice. It was awesome. Everybody wanted to hang out.
I've seen it. It is an awesome place.
But that's not the vision that my wife had when we got married. Or for me, that wasn't convenient. So I think a lot of people might have said, hey, you know what? I got the good job getting married. My dad's passing away. You know, I have this legacy, which we haven't even talked about in Seattle, around being a dancer and serving. But I said, you know what? My story is going to be bigger than this. In order for me to go serve at a higher level, I got to go expand who I am. And so I made that leap of faith.
So here's what I want to touch on, man, is most people won't take the leap to just quit their job. I also never advise for someone to just be like, oh, dude, pull the ripcord, I'm out of here, and then have no backup plan, put their family in like some major financial strife and be on the street or whatever, right? So like be calculated about it. And I'm not saying you did that, but I always want to put that caveat in. Like we're never going to advise like you to just like quit your job and,
it's very situational.
Don't do it recklessly.
Yeah.
Okay? But aside from that, here's the lesson. Like to me, like one of the major lessons in this story that you just told is that you saw it as an investment to quit and take a pay cut. Right? And so, like, yeah, you could have been making, 6 times as much money probably sticking with your job than going to this $30,000 a year salary from your startup. And, oh, by the way, living in a house with way too many people, and you just got married, right? And your dad just passed away. Like, totally not ideal, like you said. Not what you probably envisioned your life to be. However, you took that pay cut, and that was essentially your financial investment in order to accelerate the progress and get way farther along than you ever would have than if you stayed at your job, right? You may not have gotten anywhere, actually, if you stayed at your job as far as your path to purpose, right? And so that to me is like a way to flip it from a negative to a positive, right? Which is what we talked about before we started recording, and look at it from a different perspective, right? You invested in acceleration, and that's so immensely more positive than saying, I went from 160 grand a year or whatever down to 30 grand a year, and I'm crammed into this house like sardines. This sucks.
Yeah. And let me just say this too, contextually. Like I've adopted the belief that, listen, pain, rough patches, when things get tough, like that's an inevitability. You're going to experience that as part of your journey in life. But you don't set up your tent there. You don't build a house there. You don't build the house in pain.
You're not going to stay there forever.
That's right. You go through the land of pain on your own path, and you find the reasons that this is happening to you. And by find, I mean sometimes you just have to attach them. And when you start to attach reasons that are enabling to any painful situation, you start to do that habitually. Then you just start to see pain as a gift. You see it for what it is. It's a gift. It's a reframe. Tony Stark didn't become Iron Man until he went to Afghanistan, got blown out of the sky, and had to build the suit, man. Right?
Yes.
We all have that version of us in us, and it's not just a movie. The reason why that story resonates with us is because that's how we're wired. That's the way as a species we are, man. So the more that we can get altitude and awareness on the meaning we attach to our own experiences and start to attach meanings that serve us, these things become a lot less scary. That's all. We could do a whole other podcast just on that. I just want to say that pain's temporary. What makes it long is you're dwelling on it and telling yourself the story of that pain over and over and over again. So, when you start to get your head wrapped around these things, taking these leaps is a little bit more palatable. Doesn't feel crazy. In fact, when I moved into this house and it, felt, for most people, it's like, oh, you got married and you moved in with all these people. Like, what is this, college again? I was having the time of my life.
It's a dorm.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it was we built an incredible environment there. And so that was such a great blessing in disguise that I never would have, found if I didn't go do that. And so, but yeah, listen, that, and maybe inside of your own life, you don't have to make a massive pivot like that. Maybe you just need, at a very micro level, you need to start looking at things in your life that you should be doing that you're not. At a micro level, like build rituals around that, because what that's going to do is train your brain that it's okay. It's okay to step outside my comfort zone and grow, and it's going to be painful a little bit at first. But the example I like to use is, vast majority of Americans don't floss religiously, like over and over. Like, start flossing every day, and it's painful and it'll bleed, but in like 3 weeks you're fine. These little micro things
can really help upgrade your life. I know some of this is like self-help chintzy, but dude, it works.
Yeah.
You're literally rehabituating yourself to trust your instincts, deal with things that suck, and attach meaning to them. Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
But speaking of attaching meaning, so this particular business was awesome. It was called Rally Song, and our whole job was to go help big musicians raise money for their favorite charities. It was like we had a Kickstarter platform that we would run these campaigns for these artists, and so it was awesome until we got left at the altar on our second funding round, and we had to go to Skeleton Crew, let a bunch of people go, and I found myself in a place where, you know, we had to shut the business down. We had to sell it for spare parts to recoup some investment for some of the investors that gave us money, and even give some of the assets back to some of the investors who thought they could do more with it than we did. It was a very painful experience.
Sounds awful.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was like, you know, you think about, as a founder, you think about your product as your baby. Man, that thing was, you know, I had 2 other business partners, but that was our child. It was tough. So, but to exacerbate the toughness, I found myself in a place, you know, this was back in Southern California. There was a massive drought, and if you remember on the internet, the ALS challenge was going viral. Ice bucket challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Right around that time, just to contextualize when in time this happened. It was super hot. I'm at home. You know, we didn't have any AC here. I don't think we were using it to save money. And so I'm hot. It's like middle of the day, and I'm in Venice Beach, California, and I'm like, all right, I'm hungry. I'm gonna go to Whole Foods and I'm just gonna get some food. I'm having a bad day because I'm really upset about this business. There's one particular part of like actually officially closing it that I had to do that just put me in a bad space. I was like, I'm gonna get out of my house and walk. I'm gonna go get some food at Whole Foods. So I'm walking to Whole Foods, man, and it's hot. Like, I'm in a tank top and shorts, but I'm still sweating. You know, it's about a quarter mile by the time I get there. And when I get into the Whole Foods, I'm sweaty. So the first thing I do is go find an ice cold drink. And you go to the back of the drinks in the back of their fridge that are a little bit colder.
Yeah.
I grab one of those. I go get my hot bar food, and I get in line. And I pull out my credit card and I swipe it, and it's declined.
Oh.
And the part I don't usually tell this story is I opened the drink and started drinking it. So man, I am broke. I'm broker than broke. And there's a real pain that comes from not being able to eat.
Oh.
Like it's like the bottom level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs level of pain.
Right.
And then a bottom level of humiliation.
Yes.
Just in a wash of absolute, utter embarrassment and humiliation. Never really been humiliated in my life because I don't take myself too seriously.
Yeah.
But it just crushed me.
Oh.
So I was like, I lied. I'm going to go in my car and get another card. Can you watch my stuff? And then I left the awkward robot out of Whole Foods and went home. And I think I made some crap that I found in the back of the cupboard because I was hungry.
Oh.
And my wife's at work making the money to make sure that I can eat. So so I didn't achieve the dream and aspiration that I had when I left my corporate job, but I was delivered this incredible experience of 2 years of learning how to build a startup, learning how to build a product, learning how to put the customer first, learning that no matter what we do, it's all about going out and finding out what the market needs are because they don't care about what our needs are. That was a massive lesson for me that working in an ivory tower at Microsoft wouldn't have taught me. Like, I knew that from reading books, but going and experiencing it, 2 different things, right? You go and get the association to upgrade. So I was given this massive gift of failure, financially, spiritually, emotionally, relationship-wise with my wife, and so this was a massive gift for me. But what was also a blessing to this association is I have a roommate at the time who we know, I think he actually introduced us, is Travis Steffen. And Travis is an incredible entrepreneur. He'd built and sold like 4 or 5 companies.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Amazing. So I was like, cool. We went out for tuna burgers at Umi in Santa Monica, and I'll never forget this day. I saw the statistic. It was the fastest growing segment of social media on the market was people 45 years and older. It was when everybody was running to Snapchat because their parents were joining Facebook. I was like, man, there's gold in them there hills. I was like, why don't we find the small business owners that are 45 years and older that don't know how to use social media as a tool to make money? Because we know it like second nature, right? As entrepreneurs and digital natives. So we built an agency that's all we did. Hyper focused on people 45 years and older, business owners that made a certain amount of money. Travis was kind enough to pay an outsourced person from the Philippines to go scrape a bunch of dental office information.
That sounds like him.
And we just cold called and got our first customer. And then we go and we figure out a formula, and we hired more people to execute the formula, and pretty soon we're making good money every month. And I'm not doing any of the work. I've used my experiences to now re-architect this business from the ground up without any outside capital, just an idea. And within 30 days we had a business that was profitable. And so that's the thing, is the long dark night of the soul, or that long night walk through hell or whatever, that doesn't have to last that long. Just keep your feet moving.
Yeah.
This was like literally like weeks after this Whole Foods moment. But again, it was all a part of this being in the right environment and having the wherewithal inside of my mind state to go back and shift. I went back and did a bunch of stuff to shift my mind that day that we don't have time to get into. But yeah, it's a big part of it. This mindset thing is huge, which is why I'm so, that's why I'm so focused on mindset and purpose.
Yeah.
So yeah, we crashed that business, but we built another one quickly and ended up selling it for a healthy profit in like 10 months.
That's incredible.
And that gave me the win my ego needed, some capital to be able to serve literally with money in a bigger level, and put me back in a place of, okay, I'm on the right path.
Yeah. And the thing is like, the post-success of that or not, it's like, the thing that I'd like to think about, Joe, is that when I'm in a very trying situation, whether it's like a negative, like big fire we got to put out in the business, or business goes out of business or whatever, I know intuitively I'm about to grow immensely.
Yeah.
And if you can flip it and think about it that way, and I keep saying flip it, it's so incredibly powerful, right? So back to the Microsoft thing, staying there for 20 years or leaving and then deciding to go through this failure, and then maybe the next one would have been a failure too. In the end, you're going to grow so much more, network, financially, spiritually, emotionally, right? In your skill set, so much more than you would if you just like kind of stayed the course where you were, right?
Let me ask you a question. Did that come, like batteries included, factory installed? This idea that if something bad is happening?
No, of course not.
So how did you put that together?
Well, the thing is like, you don't ever want the negative thing to happen, right? Like I'm not gonna say, man, I hope that something bad happens today because then I can grow a bunch. Like I'm never gonna want that.
Yeah.
But it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And if it's going to happen, then I need to either look at it in a way that's productive but also true, or otherwise I'm just going to be like defeating, right? It's all this self-defeating script in my head. Now, to answer your question, man, no. The way that it happened is that I started to look at patterns in my life, right, where negative things happened, right? And so, like, I used to sell automotive parts. This is how I got started in e-commerce in college and all that, right? Won't get into it. But the thing is like you would have like a downturn in business, and what would happen? I would be forced, because I had to pay bills and I wanted to continue to make money and have a place to live and eat, because they're relatively important. I would have to go back and be like, all right, I got to reinvent this business. I got to find new product lines. I got to find new customers. I got to update the website and make it more user friendly. I got to do things because I was sitting on my ass, and then now it's gone downhill, and I've got to do something different, right? And then it would happen again. Something would happen. I'd lose a vendor, or like new competition would come up, or somebody would go out of business. Something bad would happen, and then it would kill a segment of the business that I was relying on. And then what would I do? I'd do the same thing again, right? Like rinse and repeat. And so two things came out of it. One was that when negative situations happen, it forces you to get up and do something and hustle harder, right? Because you've gotten complacent. But the second thing that it reminded me of is like, dude, how about you just hustle harder all the time, right? And it's not like putting in extra time and all the stuff we talked about at the beginning of the show, but more so like try to continue to innovate and put your previous business out of business, right? The way that you're doing it now is not the way it's always going to work. That's just truth. And so why don't you be the person to innovate and put that aspect of your business out of business, because now you're going to level up and do something a little bit different, right?
And you effectively earned the right to think about that, because you had gotten your business to a place where it was making a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
There was a certain level of stability.
Mm-hmm.
You probably had a small team, either full or out, or contractors or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've now earned the right to have this mental space, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I do. I help entrepreneurs find that space,
Mm-hmm.
and then I work with them to reinvest it. Reinvest it in your purpose, reinvest it in your business,
Mm-hmm.
reinvest it in your people, reinvest it in your family,
Mm-hmm.
reinvest it in your body, reinvest it in your spiritual purpose,
Mm-hmm.
your spiritual connection to whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah.
So, but if you don't have that altitude, and we can all make that, we don't need to go hire people to make that. But if we don't have that, and can acknowledge that and understand that we can use it, then it's very difficult to get altitude on your situation and be able to go out and see the forest and then dive in where you.
Well, that's the definition of a rut, right? Yeah. Like you're in a rut, you're on the hamster wheel, like you can't like hop off to even think about anything clearly. Like, you're just trying to keep that thing moving.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's incredibly easy to stay there forever. And it's also incredibly easy to get yourself out.
Yeah.
Tactically, there's very simple things you can do to get out of that. So.
Totally. All right, man. Let's switch the Reaper around.
Let's do it. Let me turn on the AC.
Yeah, we're gonna turn on the AC. Joe's realized that we've got 12 minutes to do this, and he forgot water.
The water makes it worse.
The water does make it worse.
I need some
so
milk.
he's got the Reaper. So this is where our guest tries to answer some rapid fire questions while eating I don't know, of the Carolina Reaper jerky. Are you ready?
I am prepared.
Yeah, and you just got to listen to episode with your homie Simnick.
Simnick.
And who, by the way, ate the whole bag and put some of his sriracha on top, which was a mistake, I think he would say.
I think it's a mistake, not when it goes in, but when it comes out.
Oh, yeah, I got some funny emojis from him the next morning, dude. That's all I have to say. All right, bro. We've got 11 minutes. Let's see how many of these we can get through.
Let's do it.
Favorite book? Could be something recent. Could be a classic
What
for
genre?
you. Could be business. Could be personal. Whatever comes to mind when someone says that to you.
Favorite, what is it, fiction book? The audiobook of World War Z.
Okay.
Best set of voice actors ever. Everybody from Mark Hamill, who's Luke
Yeah.
Skywalker, to Martin Scorsese and everybody in between.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
Completely different from the movie. Ignore the movie.
Mhm.
Very long audiobook. Incredibly well done, told story. Must listen.
Okay.
Favorite business book? It's not the 4 Disciplines of Execution. We're done paying you guys. Man, there's so many. I'll say it's a two-way tie. Number one, Perspective on McKinsey by Marvin Bower, who's the
Okay.
guy who built the famous management consulting firm McKinsey and Company. It's actually a book he wrote to them that you can't buy. You can get on Amazon for like $400, but it's an incredible book. That's book number one. Book number two, which is more accessible, is 4-Hour Workweek.
Really, still.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. Timeless.
Timeless book.
Tactics are dated, but the concepts are timeless.
Yeah, it's put yourself in the framework and talk about making things seem achievable. Like you read that book, you're like, oh, yeah, delegation's not that hard, or I'm thinking about it all wrong, you know?
And it's such a great synthesis of so many other people's books and work.
Yeah.
Everybody from Richard Koch with the 80-20 principle to like Magic of Thinking Big. It's incredible. It's like it's an all and done. I think I read it every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to reread it. I haven't gotten back to it in a while, but it's funny because I had a friend of mine who hated on him for a long time, and he finally read it. He's like, dude, I'm sorry.
Can't hate it. Yeah.
You know, and the thing is like, you're right. None of his ideas are revolutionary, and they're not new, but the way he puts it together, it synthesizes it, as you say, it just makes it seem just like super achievable, right?
Yeah.
Accessible.
And tested inside of his own experience, which is what makes the book great.
Yeah. Any quotes you live by?
Many. I said earlier, the better it gets, the better it can get. That's the one I want people to stick with.
I love that. I love it. Biggest business blunder.
Woo! We were doing a campaign for a major musician whose name will remain nameless, and instead of using like MailChimp to send it out, I was in a hurry, so I sent it from like our Gmail.
No,
inbox.
you didn't.
I was so sure I put everybody on BCC. I didn't. So much for personal information and all the laws around that stuff. Yeah, that was a big deal.
It's a big deal. Best under $100 purchase.
If you guys make content, the Rode RODE mic that plugs. You have to get the dongle that plugs into the modern iPhone.
Yeah.
I'm using it to record my voice right now. Incredible.
Yeah. Clearly, I need one.
$55.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's a lapel mic. Put it in the show notes and put your affiliate link. Or actually, I'll give you my Amazon Smile link.
You give me that. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, I prefer that. Yeah. Okay, great. In the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life? Or to put it another way, what have you changed your mind about?
Man, this is tough. So I count myself a Christian.
You're killing that jerky, by the way.
It's good, man. It's so good. So I count myself a Christian, a follower of Christ. I still do.
Likewise.
I'm not here to make you right or wrong if you don't believe that. But what I've learned in my life is recently, it's far more useful to put right and wrong aside and just pay attention to what's useful. Because I have the moral code embedded in my heart. I can't run away from it. The Bible says, raise a child in the way he will not depart from it. I'm already there. So oftentimes for me, taking right and wrong, which comes with judgment and a lot of conflicting stories that slow me down, to the side for a second and just ask what's useful. What's useful and what's going to benefit the most people. Now let me put my moral lens back on top of it. Has been an incredibly useful thinking tool for me as a leader. And I know that's maybe not popular for all my zealot fellow believers, but I'm just being real. That's been a big shift for me.
So it reminds me, Jeremy, Courtney, we had on the show from Preemptive Love, like their phrase and the tour and the book and everything's called Love Anyway, right? And that to me is like the same thing, like it encapsulates what you're talking about. It's like first and foremost, like people need things, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember this pastor from Florida, he always talked about like, listen, here's one thing not to do. Somebody just had like a tragic thing happen in their life and you go and you say, oh man, it was, there's a reason behind it. Everything happens for a reason.
Right.
Like that's not helpful.
Right.
I remember he would say, don't say that anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Like people need things, right? And so that paired with love anyway, paired with thinking like, what does somebody need, or what does the situation need, or what's most effective here first?
Yeah.
And then saying, okay, I'm going to throw the filter of good and bad on top of that and figure out kind of like how you can be most effective in a situation is so much more helpful. And like Nick always says, like if somebody does something that seems completely out of left field and it's stupid or ridiculous or crazy, the first question he would ask, and he's helped me with this, is what's going on in somebody's life that would cause them to do what they just did?
Right.
And then that allows you to be empathetic, right? And to see it through their eyes, right? See through, as you say. And then you're like, then you can think more clearly on how you can help that person.
Oh, 100%.
Versus just thinking like, that's a bad person. They did something stupid. They're greedy. They're whatever it is. You just ate that whole bag?
Oh, yeah. That's pretty good, man.
Oh, my gosh.
This is a longer story. I have a little bit of an immunity to spicy things.
Clearly.
I think I told you that in Seattle at the retreat.
I don't remember.
So it's totally not. This is so gross, but it's not the way it goes in. I'll say that. But yeah, no, I'm. This is amazing, and I just broke my fast about 5 minutes before 16 hours. So
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm
Perfect.
starving too.
Yeah, dude. I cannot believe you're just sitting here like no big deal.
I thought it was gonna be hotter.
It's insanely hot.
It's hot. No, I promise. I just had a bunch of saliva in my mouth. It's so detailed that I tried to swallow and it almost went down the wrong hole, and it coated my throat with this painful thing that's happening to me right now. But it's so good. It hurts so good.
I cannot believe you just ate that whole thing. Simnick, dude, look, Joe just killed it. No big deal.
I'll wait till you judge my emojis tomorrow morning by his emojis, and we'll see where it's at.
Yeah, but so I think that's how we have. I mean, this is to me like this feeds like kind of the divide that's happening in the country right now and around the world, where we don't have any empathy and we can't see how the other person can think the way that they do, and we just think of themselves as ill-conceived or stupid. Versus like there's a person that's walked through a situation and they think the way that they think for a reason, and that doesn't make them good or bad, right?
Right. You don't have to create distance between yourself. And also this idea of putting good and bad to the side, the big insight that I got is we all have an intuition. We need to start listening to it. Like it's not the Holy Spirit if you believe in that. It's separate from that. Mm-hmm. And you have to turn up the voice on that intuition. Sometimes it's great and sometimes it sucks, but you got to start listening to it. Mm-hmm. And I think naturally the moral code on our heart is like, you don't have to say anything. Just go give that person a hug. Mm-hmm. But we run these scripts and all this crap in our head, and it's like, oh, there's a reason for it. Like, nah, just give them a hug.
Yeah.
Like a big, warm, heart-to-heart hug.
Yeah, mean it.
Mean it.
Mean it. What's next for you?
What's next for me is, two things.
We haven't even talked about Purpose First, man. Let's talk about what's going on with you.
Yeah, okay. So I have a practice, I have a coaching and advisory practice that sits under a broader nonprofit effort that I put together called the Purpose First Project. Mm-hmm. Purpose First is primarily focused on bringing high-level entrepreneurs and people that are just getting started together for a weekend where we go out and serve, we share meals, we have a great time. This is the event where you just met Dave in Seattle.
Amazing.
And the whole thing is that if I can get people together, magic happens when you put people together, but also the magic of belief happens for the people that aren't as far along as you are. Mm-hmm. So that's the whole thing there. And then inside of that, to fund that endeavor, I have a coaching practice which does some of the tools I've been talking about, helping hustling entrepreneurs turn into actual CEOs that don't have 5 jobs, they have 1 job. Mm-hmm. And we do that through a system and a process, through coaching. And then, I take on about 1 or 2 companies a year where we go deep. Right. Or just last year, I worked with a software SaaS company, and we took them from 1 million ARR to 4 million ARR. Still working with them. Cool. Travis is the CEO right now. Love those guys. And so I take on a couple of those projects because I have an insatiable appetite for building and beyond coaching. And I also want to eat my own dog food. I don't want to become irrelevant. I want to practice what I preach. And so that's the petri dish that I do that. And so if you are a services-based company, software or not, and you're looking to grow quickly and scale at a rate that's safe and awesome and fast, I work with founders, entrepreneurs, and folks that are looking for that.
dope. I love it, man. What should I have asked you, but I didn't?
If you're going through a space right now and you're transitioning from, being in a job and maybe wanting to go pursue a career in entrepreneurship, or you're in a place where you've already found some success but you're stuck, right? Like you're at high 6 figures, low 7 figures, and you want to break through from a revenue perspective and have more time in your life. I can help you with that. If you want help with that, I can help you with that. And you can reach me, simple, just email me, coach@purposefirst.org, okay? And just put the title mission in the subject, and that'll automatically give you 30% off of anything if we decide to transact together.
Love that. Thanks for doing that, bro.
So you should have asked me, what can I plug for you, Joe?
That works.
Yeah.
Your favorite Mission Meets flavor?
Ooh, it was previously original.
Okay.
And now it is
The Reaper.
The Reaper, baby. This is so good. It's like, if you like flaming hot Cheetos, right? This is like a couple of orders of magnitude up on the hot scale, but it gives you that same kind of like, it tastes amazing, but it has that tingly hotness that just, it's a stimulating experience.
That's the thing about it, I like about the Reaper, man, is that it's not just stupid hot to be stupid hot. It actually tastes good.
It does.
It's delicious.
100%.
Yeah.
Very good.
All right, brother. Dude, I really appreciate the time.
Yeah.
This is our first carpool Live Your Mission. I don't know what we're going to call this thing.
Gotta do more of these.
This is fun.
So good.
It's awesome. And I'll get a lapel mic so I don't sit here with my mic and talking to it. But this is dope, man. I appreciate it, bro.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks,
This is great.
Take it easy, bro. Thanks for tuning in. And I just want to challenge you, now that you've listened to this episode with Joe, to really sit and question the path that you're on. Think about whether you're living in your purpose, leaning into your purpose, on the path to your purpose or not, and why not. If you are, great. How can you continue to be down that path and maybe even accelerate your progress? And if you're not, why not? And what would it take to get there? What are the steps that you would need to take in order to get on that path to purpose, leaning into that, living through it, shedding some of the responsibilities that you can shed if you're an employee or solopreneur or entrepreneur, founder, CEO, whatever. Just really think about that. Take some time over the next week or so and start to journal and write down some of the things that you need to be doing in order to be on that path. Okay. And if you do and you make some of those changes, reach out to me. Hit me up, peter@missionmeets.co. Tell me about it, or DM us on Instagram. Tell us your story. Let us know how you're living out your mission. We'd love to feature you on the show. And whether that's just a mention or shout out, or we you hop on a Zoom call and record you a little bit and share your story. I'd love to do any of those things. If you have some Q&A that you want to send in regards to where you're stuck and ways for you to proceed, email me. I can even maybe even loop in Joe. Or at least ask him and get some Q&A started there. So thanks again for listening. We're honored to share this time with you, and we don't take it lightly. And if there's anything that you'd like for us to be doing differently, to add, subtract from the show, reach out to us. And if you're not subscribing and you want to subscribe, I wouldn't mind it. A review, let's do that perhaps. Until next time, thanks for listening. Now get out there and live your mission. Later.